Hi, I'm John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to our one-on-one interview with the Assistant Dean of Admissions at the Yale School of Management, Bruce DelMonico.
Hey, John.
Welcome, Bruce.
Thank you so much.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
You've been at the school for 15 years.
I have.
How has it changed?
It's changed greatly. In some ways it's changed, some ways it's the same. The founding mission of educating leaders for business and society remains the same, and it's still as vibrant as ever. But we've done so much in the last 15 years, and when I joined, I saw the potential that it had, and I was thrilled to be around for people like Joel Podolny and Sharon Oster, and then most recently Ted Snyder, to help unlock the potential of connecting with Yale, connecting with the globe, creating an unparalleled curriculum at the school. So it's changed in so many ways, but in a lot of ways still the same.
I mean, one of the biggest changes, I think, was the mission to become the most global business school in America. Tell us how you've achieved that.
In a number of ways, actually. Some of them similar to other schools are doing, but I think most importantly, a very unique model for engaging around the globe. Ted Snyder, our dean, and David Bach created what we call the Global Network for Advanced Management, which is now 30 schools across 6 continents. And the idea is contrary to what lots of business schools do to reach outside the borders of the U.S. by creating partnerships, one-to-one partnerships, which are very limited, usually semester-long exchanges, often at the MBA level. What we did at Yale was to create a network model, a network of schools around the globe that allows our students to connect with students from the other 30 schools in a much more sophisticated way. And we've created a whole platform of opportunities for students to engage across the globe in ways that really, I think, are much more meaningful and much more beneficial to them as future global leaders.
So I know in one sense they're engaging in virtual teams.
Yes.
That are worldwide.
Yes.
There are these global network weeks where different schools use their faculty with unique expertise to put on courses that would otherwise not be available to others. And then they have, what do you have? Small network.
Yeah, online courses,
yeah,
SNOCs, as we call them. Yes, exactly.
Right. SNOCs,
lovely
not
acronym.
MOOCs. Right. Which are another form of tapping into the expertise around the world and different perspectives that you might not otherwise get.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And so there's a whole menu of opportunities that exist. Some of them do involve taking courses at one of the other schools, so physically traveling to the other schools to get that global experience. But some of them are virtual, so online opportunities. And we actually have built in into the core curriculum what we call global virtual teams. So when you start in our integrated curriculum at Yale, the first course you take is managing groups and teams, which gets you to think about how to be a good team leader, a good team member. That starts your fall semester. Starting the spring semester in January is what we call global virtual teams, and which I think you alluded to. And that's part of the core. Everybody takes that. And the focus of that is to how to engage teams that are not co-located, that are dispersed across time zones, across languages, having to engage virtually, because that's a lot of how business operates now. And that's a special skill. And so we actually, in our core, have a course that's dedicated to that, to teach you skills and strategies for doing that. And then through the global network, you actually get to practice that by doing actual cases, actual work that involves working with students who are in Mexico and France, elsewhere around the world, and you're never actually in the same place, but actually having to work on a case together.
Right.
And present at the end.
Huh. And I know another invention that was created not long ago was a new master's program.
Yes.
That brings global students for a master's called, is it a Master's in Advanced Management?
Yes, MAM.
Right. And these people already have MBAs from other schools. But the implication here is that you're bringing more global talent into the classroom with MBA students to give a more global perspective on class discussions.
That's correct. And so these MAM students, as we call them, as you say, they have their MBAs from one of the other global network schools. They come to Yale for 1 year to be in electives with our MBA students. So they get the benefit of taking the Yale classes for the year. Our MBA students get the benefit of their knowledge, their insights, their experience, their perspective. So it really does help make the classroom experience even that much more global. It's a similar concept. We also engage very much with Yale University. That's usually 10 to 15% of each class is pursuing a joint degree with another Yale school, a formal joint degree. And so they bring their experiences into the classroom as well. So we have people steeped in law, medicine, forestry, drama, architecture, divinity, and bringing those perspectives. So similar to that, the MAM students bring their global perspectives and share their insights. And I think it does make the classroom experience that much more rich and that much more fulfilling for our students, for all the students really.
And that's a key point I want to draw out a little bit more, because most business schools grew up on the periphery of campus. They were pretty much isolated from their parent university. Many other academic departments, frankly, wanted it that way, but business schools wanted it that way too. But one of the things that have happened at Yale is you've really taken advantage of the great university brand that you have. That's one of the great university brands in the world, bar none. And you've done that also by opening the doors not only to dual degree candidates, but to students from other departments and schools to come and take your courses. And those departments and schools have opened their doors to your MBA students. So can you give us a little flavor of that and some examples?
Yeah, no, happy to do that. And I think that's right. I think Yale generally, we're lucky to be at a university like Yale. Very few business schools have that opportunity. And we're also lucky in the fact that Yale is a very porous place. There's a lot of exchange across the different graduate schools and even with the Yale College undergraduates. So we get to take advantage of that. And I think there are a number of ways in which that's the case. Obviously the number of joint degree students, but even is one. But even students who are not pursuing a joint degree. So we're obviously a 2-year full-time MBA program. The first year is mostly the core curriculum, but you start to take electives in the spring of the first year, and then the second year is entirely electives. And at Yale, you can take those anywhere at the university you want. You could actually take all your electives outside of the School of Management and still graduate. And I think that's unparalleled. And I think that's not something. Some schools will allow a couple of courses here or there. At SOM, you can take all your courses anywhere at the university. And so you can really, one example I give is if you wanted to go into real estate development, you could, obviously we have courses at the School of Management. You could take courses at the Forestry School on sustainable development. You could take courses at the law school on real estate law. You could take courses at the architecture school and really kind of put together a curriculum that is very tailored to your interests and to your professional goals. And I think that's really powerful.
It's kind of inside baseball, but it's really true. You can go to other business schools and they'll say the same thing. But the difference at Yale is that by and large, the academic calendar of the other schools and departments are aligned with the School of Management, so that it does not become a major hurdle for you to take electives in other places at Yale.
Yeah, that's right. And it's also the case that faculty reserves seats in each class for students from outside that school. So it's not as though you have to fight with students from the law school or public health or anywhere else for those seats. There's some slack in there. And I don't know if other schools actually say that you can take every course outside of their particular
I have
school.
never heard that
So I think
anywhere.
that is
And that's a major difference. It's often overlooked, particularly by international students who consider European schools that are more likely to be standalone business schools with no opportunity to take courses at a university because there's no parent university. And that's a big difference. The other big difference, frankly, is something you mentioned earlier, Bruce, and it's the integrated curriculum in the core that was passed through by the previous dean, Sharon Oster. Talk about what an integrated curriculum is and why it's better than a more traditional siloed, disciplined curriculum.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And I think the curriculum, our connections to Yale, so our global approach, I think those are all in place for a reason. It's not as though we want to be different for the sake of being different, but we think to be a successful leader in the 21st century, you need to have that global perspective. You need to have a broader perspective. You need to think not just about the business disciplines, but understand sort of the legal framework within which businesses operate. You need to understand medicine, you need to understand the environment, you need to understand political science, psychology, sociology. So all these disciplines are relevant to be a successful leader. And so that's how our curriculum is structured. So as you say, instead of teaching along functional silos, which is how most traditional MBA curriculum are structured, we actually cut across the silos and teach based on what we call organizational perspectives. So we look not at, an example I give, not at marketing as a class, so it's the function, but we look at the customer as a stakeholder and what parts of an organization relate to the customer or affect the customer experience. So it can include marketing, but also can include operations, technology, accounting. These are all disciplines that you need to understand and understand how they're interconnected to be a successful leader and to satisfy the customer experience. And so we have a host of stakeholder perspectives, organizational perspectives that we teach in the core. So we teach it much differently, not not by function, but across functions.
And that has implications for how you organize faculty.
Yep.
That has implications for how faculty collaborate with each other. It also has investment implications for the school because it's a lot more costly to deliver an integrated core curriculum than it would be to have siloed accounting, finance, statistics, marketing, strategy, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. No, I think that's exactly right. This is not an easy thing to put together. Faculty like to work in their own disciplines. They don't like to work across disciplines. So to create this kind of interdisciplinary approach is challenging. But we have faculty who are very open to that, and I think that's a wonderful thing. And there's a lot of team teaching in the core curriculum, a lot of faculty from different parts of SOM, and even from outside of SOM, from different parts of Yale, who are teaching in the core. So you'll have multiple faculty in there. It is also an expensive thing to do. It actually, much more expensive than other curricula. And I think we're fortunate enough to be at Yale to have the resources to be able to put together this kind of curriculum. Early on, when the integrated curriculum was first introduced, a lot of schools came to see what we were doing, to see how we were doing it, and they realized it takes a very special combination of small size, large resources, and a willing faculty to put this kind of curriculum together. And really no other schools were interested in doing it, but they didn't have the right combination of factors to be able to do that.
Right.
So I think that is very unique to us, and there's a reason why that's the case. And I would say that we, in addition to the team teaching, that integrated approach, one unique aspect of the core especially is our case method. So we teach about 50 to 60% using cases, but we actually have our own case writing team. We have what we call raw cases, which we contrast to traditional cooked MBA cases where the case writing team takes all the relevant facts and kind of boils it down to a 10 to 12 page document that gives you all the facts you need to know. It kind of eliminates everything you don't need to know. And the insight that our faculty had is that's not how you interact with data and information in the real world. In the real world, you're not given a case. There's no case writing team. You're given a problem. You're given a challenge, and you're told to figure it out. So what our cases are comprised of, the primary source materials you'll experience in the real world, the 10Ks, 10Qs, other regulatory filings, interviews with key stakeholders, media reports, all the things that you would actually interact with in the real world. And the case writing team does not tell you what's relevant and what's not. You have to figure that out for yourself. So even in the core curriculum, even when you're sitting in a class, you're developing the skills that will make you successful after you graduate.
Interesting. So how does the dual mission of the school to produce leaders for both the private and the public sector affect the MBA experience?
I think in a lot of different ways. I think that founding mission informs pretty much everything we do. And it speaks not just to the kinds of careers people have, although I think that's part of it. We have lots of people, obviously, like a lot of business schools, most of our graduates, about a third go into consulting, about 20% go into finance, investment banking, investment management, PE, VC, and technology and elsewhere down the line. We have a significant number that go into the social sector, the public sector, I think higher than other schools. So in that sense, there's that piece of it. But I think just the experience itself, I think people who are mission-oriented, they're thinking not just about the private sector, but the public sector, the nonprofit sector, how they're interrelated. Our cases are structured in a multi-sector way. They're also very global in nature. So we're trying to teach our students to, again, be very broad-minded about how they approach things. And I think that spirit informs how our students engage with each other and how they think about their careers, the kind of impact they want to have. It's not just about, what kind of benefits can I gain for myself, but what kind of impact I can have. So even people who are going into the private sector, going to consulting, they might be doing social sector consulting, but they might be doing management consulting, but thinking about it in a different way. They might be going to investment banking, but thinking about it in a different way because of the things they learned, the values that they acquired or were able to accentuate at Yale.
So Bruce, for someone who wants to take advantage of Yale SOM, 3 things that you think that they should do to prepare a good application that you and your team will read and maybe accept.
Yeah.
What are the 3 things?
The 3 things, no pressure. So, one thing I would start by saying is that we have such a diverse student body. We're not looking for any one thing in an application in terms of you have to have this background, this experience, or this aspect to your profile. And a lot of people, they're attracted to us for different reasons. But the 3 things that I would say, just on a higher level, you could call it the traditional be yourself thing, but which I think sounds like a platitude. It sounds very trite, but it's true.
Don't create a persona.
Exactly.
Be who you are.
And not just for us, but for any school. I think there's a sense that some schools, they're a finance school, or they're a marketing school, or they're a nonprofit school or operations school, and so I need to present myself a different way to different schools. At this point, and that might have been the case years ago, but at this point, every school is looking for diversity, looking for different backgrounds that they can bring together, and so that people can learn from each other. So, I think presenting who you are in a very sort of genuine way is key. Don't try and shade it one way or the other, depending on what you think the school wants to see. And I think there's a game theory component to this, in the sense that if you think that you need to present yourself one way to one school, other people are probably doing the same thing, and you end up looking less like yourself and more like everybody else. So it's not a great strategy. Mm-hmm. Another thing I would say is don't hide from your weaknesses. I think that's something that traditionally, obviously, you want to accentuate your strengths and the reasons why we should accept you, but we know that nobody's perfect. We know there's no such thing as an ideal candidate that has no flaws. If you didn't have any flaws, you wouldn't be trying to go to business school. You wouldn't have anything to gain from it.
True.
So it's not as though you should lead with your weaknesses, but I think if there are things that you think we might have questions about, if it's work gaps or transitions or your academic background, we see lots of applications. Read thousands every year. We'll see it, and we'll come up with some probably less charitable explanation for it if you don't explain it yourself. So helping us contextualize it, helping to explain it, and maybe having it be a reason why you want to go to business school, I think can be an important aspect of the process.
And number three?
Number three, I think, is it sounds also very, very simple, very straightforward, but follow the directions. So every school is looking for a lot of the same things, but some different things, and asking somewhat different questions. And for example, repurposing an essay for one school and submitting it for another school, schools can see that as an example. And so I think taking the effort, it's an involved process. It's a challenging process to apply to business schools, but hopefully it will be a process that'll be one of thoughtfulness, one of self-reflection, and hopefully you learn more about yourself through the process and know more about yourself after the process than you did beforehand. But investing in the process, really giving into the process, and spending the time to do it the right way as opposed to trying to cut corners, I think does make a big difference.
All good ideas. Bruce, thank you.
Thank you.
This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Thanks for watching.